Hey, welcome back to Fangirl Football. We're in for the conference championships this weekend. We're going to start with our normal review of last week and how the divisional round went and what worked well and what didn't work so well in DraftKings. Jaden Daniels had it going for sure and was our top quarterback last week. Barkley, of course, had a huge game with 42 fantasy points, and Jameer Gibbs. All of those, this winning lineup had everyone on fire, and then subbing in some wide receivers who that's kind of the theme of all of the teams that are left is we don't have a strong group of wide receivers. So you're just kind of plugging in whoever might get you 15 points and you're locking in your top running backs. And we saw that last week. I think we see it again this week.
Yeah, week after week, that's kind of been the story this year. And it felt like the main decision point on last week's slate was where were you with the three running backs? Which one did you not go with between Henry, Gibbs, and Saquon? And Henry was the right answer there. I really liked him last week against that Buffalo defense, but we don't even have a wide receiver over 7K on this slate. So we're going to be forced to save a wide receiver, and there's not even a top end option.
That's amazing. And it's kind of a toss up. We don't care at defense either going in this week. But let's finish our review.
One
Anything else
other
stand out?
Yeah, one other note is like we were talking a lot last week with the double tight end setup, and it did actually come through in the winning lineup. Likely had a great game, and Marco Andrews almost had some game winning plays too. Came up a
Yeah.
little short. We might see a similar thing too of just a lot of these teams trust their tight ends as reliable options, and comparatively to those like 4K wide receivers, definitely you got to think about those tight ends just as kind of a wide receiver in that mindset with only four teams left on the slate.
I agree. I like the wide receivers. The one more thing of note in this winning lineup, it wasn't actually the top lineup. You could have got Amon-Ra St. Brown instead of Puka Nakua, and that would have given you 9 more points. And they were basically the same price. Amon-Ra was 200 less than Puka and would have made this even better. But congrats to this person who scored 215 points. I
Yeah,
only did
and
well in a 2-game lineup last week, so
more
on
courageous
Saturday.
than me for having the Commanders defense against the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just the cheapest option, I'm going to plug it in there so I can afford everyone else, or if they're actually a Washington fan. I know sometimes, you get on the fan wagon and you do well in one of these lineups.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, let's go on to the conference championships this weekend on Sunday. We're down to 2 games. I don't know what we're going to do. Next week we have no football unless you're watching the Pro Bowl, but and then we'll have one for the Super Bowl that'll be a showdown. Anyhow, let's go. Let's kick it off with Washington at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is favored by 6 and over unders 48. I'm a little surprised that Philly is so favored in this matchup. The last time that these two teams met, it was 36 to 33 with the Commanders winning. That was the game that Hurts got hurt in, but still they scored a lot of points. The Commanders scored a lot of points in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that we're getting a 6 point line with how banged up Philadelphia looked. I mean, the Rams had a chance to win that game late, and we're not going to get any snow here. It's not really going to be bad weather conditions in either of these games, fortunately enough. But yeah, kind of in both these matchups, it's like all these teams know each other well, and they're going to be fully prepared. But with how banged up Hurts looked, he could barely scramble. They weren't even asking him to do like the normal tush pushes when they got to
He
within a yard.
He couldn't drop he couldn't even drop back, take the snap and drop back to hand off to Barkley. He was taking it in shotgun to hand off to him because he was that hobbled. And there's not been a lot of talk about this week. He was on the injury report yesterday with that knee injury, but no real word coming out about it. And he didn't look good.
And
I'm
AJ Brown is not the same player that we think of him either. I think he's like one of the top most expensive options, but he just can't get separation in the past like month. I mean, the Rams corners were all over him. I think Washington corners will still be able to guard him effectively, and I don't really think Hurts will be given the time. So if I'm Washington, like stacking the box. And I think Philly wants to, it's going to be kind of strength meets strength where Philly wants to run the ball and Washington's going to try to make them prove it.
I think so too. And Philly's, the one with something to prove in my eyes. Washington, you've got a rookie quarterback, you've got new coaching staff. And I feel like the coaching staff in Washington is really working well. Cliff Kingsbury is just getting to dial up everything he wants. And Dan Quinn's off taking care of his defensive side of the ball. And this brings back kind of memories of when the Falcons had their bad meltdown, but when the Falcons were in the Super Bowl with Dan Quinn at head coach, and we had Shanahan as the offensive coordinator. And that was a really great coaching situation as well. And it feels like they've got that chemistry going again. And I think Cliff Kingsbury is just there dreaming up everything he can this week because they're out to have fun. They weren't expected to be here and they just get to have a good time.
Yeah. The biggest question to me is the Eagles defense. I think the team is going to kind of look to the Eagles defense to win this game for them and to set the tone. Last time that these teams met up, they didn't. We talked about a 36-33, and yeah, Hurts is hurt, but they still gave up 36 points to this Commanders offense. And I don't know, they're definitely going to have to step up if they're going to want to go to the Super Bowl here. I think they can. They've been a great defense all year, and a little bit of momentum got out of hand like last time they played. But I think kind of there's two main storylines you can go with this game. Let's say Philly comes out and is able to execute on offense. They're really good in that, like showing up in the first half on defense and able to limit Washington. Then they're just going to kind of continue to run out the clock on both sides. And we're going to get a very low scoring game. But I can also see Washington gets that opening kickoff. They take it, they march down the field. And if Philly has to play in catch up mode, I don't know how they do that with Hurts' injury. I think it would have to be Devontae Smith. He's really their only like positive matchup right now with the injuries, but
I think the Eagles have to just keep giving it to Barkley. So the last time these two teams played, Barkley had 36 fantasy point. Well, actually, in week 11, Barkley had 36 fantasy points and 30 fantasy points in week 16. The Commanders haven't been good at stopping the run. Even last week, they gave up over 30 points to Jameer Gibbs. So I think Barkley's the way the Eagles have to go. They just have to keep giving it to him and dare the Commanders to stop him, which they haven't proven that they can stop a great running back like Barkley.
I'm with you. I think Barkley's a must, and I don't really know how you build a lineup with the running backs that are left without him. It's more of those like additional pieces. It's like, can you fit in the Smith? Can you fit in a Washington running back to kind of complement in this game with Eckler or Brian Robinson? They're both sitting there almost identical price to 5.2 or 5.3. Do you have a lean on either one of those?
I like Eckler. So he's just my lane because he's the pass catching back and he's a little bit more dynamic. I don't know.
The other note with this game is that I just don't think it has that true ceiling outcome. Like I don't think this is a slate where you need to pick one of the games. I think you got to pick your spots. I'm always going to have Saquon, but I think this game is kind of the limited option just because of how much these teams love to run. Washington ran for 42 times last time against Detroit, and it was just really that Detroit turnovers and high pace that kept it up. But Philly ran for 34. It's like they want to grind it out when they can, and I just don't think you're going to have the time to get a high scoring game here.
I'm going to bet that we get it again and that week 16 wasn't a fluke. I like this game a little bit more than the next one. So maybe we'll each build a lineup and see what we got going. But I do agree that you don't have to center around a game. When you've only got four teams, you really can't. You have to pick the top positions. And I don't know how every lineup is not going to have Saquon Barkley in it
I
this
agree.
week.
Final question on this game for the Washington, the next receiving options. Do you like any of those kind of secondary options with a Ertz at tight end or Diami Brown or Zacchaeus? Brown has been great through this playoffs, but can he show up that third week in a row? He's very inconsistent through the season.
I think he can show up his third week in a row, and I like Ertz as well. So both of those are great options at for your flex or the tight end spot as well. Although I think my favorite tight end is going to be in the next game.
I agree.
So
Should
let's
we
move
move
on.
on? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got Buffalo at Kansas City, and Kansas City's favored by 1.5. Over under is roughly 47.5, 48. So we're sitting about the same point totals for both of these games. It's just this one, Vegas has got closer than the last one, which is still surprising to me. Anyhow, the Bills didn't make any mistakes last week. And that was the difference in why we don't have the Ravens here. The Ravens just kept making the mistakes. But can they do it another weekend in a row against the Chiefs defense that's been winning games for them?
Yeah, and I think so. We went with Allen last time, but we were trying to really talk into the game script of Buffalo was trying to catch up. That we really thought the Ravens were going to be on them early, and then Buffalo was going to be in this catch up mode. And I think when you get that like catch up mode from Buffalo, then you get those hero Allen performances. I think some of his best performance was in a loss against the Rams this year. So if Kansas City is able to get a lead, then I think we get much better outcomes from Josh Allen, or else he kind of goes into more protective. I'm not going to make the mistake.
Yeah, I don't know how to me this game is low scoring. Mahomes only had to pass for 177 yards that last week because his defense was just winning the game. They just let the defense stay in control, make the other team make mistakes, and then Mahomes doesn't have to do a whole lot, is what we saw last week against the Texans. And I feel like they're going to try to do that again. And we have seen Josh Allen have some meltdown games. I don't want to see that this week, but we've seen it before.
I don't know. I think we get the best of the two quarterbacks here. I feel like when these two guys line up against each other on the opposite side of the field, then we do always have that ceiling outcome of they're pacing one another. That they know every single time they touch the ball, they have to get a touchdown, or else that person's gonna they're gonna be down 7. So I do like the ceiling potential for Josh Allen, and I think if you want to stack him up, you're getting such a discount with his wide receiving options. Shakir's his most expensive option, down at 5,700. With his involvement in the offense, I think he'll have a great game if Allen pulls up. And then even a secondary option, if you want to throw in the Keon Coleman, he didn't have a great game the last time these teams matched up. But even though Amari Cooper take a shot on it, he's at 4,100. So I think it does lead well to stacking this game up in that high ceiling outcome. I really like Xavier Worthy. He's been getting more and more involved. And the true weakness of this Bills rushing defense is the true weakness of the Bills defense is their rushing defense. And I don't think with a hobbled Pacheco and old Kareem Hunt, those are the players to take advantage of it. I think they're going to take advantage of it with creative plays to Worthy and with scrambles from Mahomes.
I think they're going to have to because I think the Bills are going to try to set the pace and a faster pace and not let the defense control the game, which is what they need to do to win this. And it's clear that Mahomes only trusts Kelsey and Xavier Worthy. Outside of that, he's seemed really unsure of his wide receivers, which he's got everyone pretty much back healthy. So he's got Hollywood Brown, but he's just not connecting with them yet. I think he's going to have to use them in this game, and it's going to be a dart throw over which one is it going to be. We've got some trusted wide receivers, and those are the ones that I definitely like putting in my lineup. So Shakir, Xavier Worthy, Terry McLaurin. Those are all the ones that I want to go to because I don't really trust my wide receivers and I trust my running backs more. And I even trust the tight ends more.
Yeah, I agree. And I think kind of on that line, at their like line of scrimmage, it's like this team showed last week that they trust Kareem Hunt more than Pacheco. He was the leading rusher, and he is kind of a good secondary option for that running back where we know he's going to be involved around the goal line. He always has potential to catch a couple passes, and he is probably going to be their leading rusher as far as attempts go.
I think he will be too. Pacheco I know he came back, but he doesn't look good.
He doesn't. He just hasn't been efficient. And when it comes down to getting to a Super Bowl, you want to put in a player you trust will know you get there to get you there.
So, what do you think about the officiating in the Buffalo Kansas City game this weekend?
I
Is
think
it
they're
going to
going to
play a
swallow their
role?
whistle. I think they're going to swallow their whistle. I think Roger Goodell probably called all of them individually and said, I do not want a controversy come Monday morning. Make them earn it. So I think it might be a little bit more physical of a game, and we might see some penalties kind of that people think should have been called rather than those
Kansas City
unnecessary
getting him?
roughness. Yeah. And
The
man,
offsides?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think Mahomes flopping around will get a flag this week.
Let's hope not. Yeah. th- We'll see if either quarterback ends up being touched without a penalty. All right, so let's run through by position. We've got four quarterbacks: Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. Only one of these four quarterbacks passed for more than 200 yards last week, and that was Jaden Daniels. I want to go back to him again. If I didn't go Jaden Daniels, then I've got to go Josh Allen. And I just feel like he's going to put the entire team on his back and carry them to a win in this game.
Yeah, I think in the average outcome, Daniel's the best option here, and you get a little bit of a savings for Allen. I think Allen has that slightly higher upside, but I'm good going Daniels here.
We can save $500 and go Daniels, so we'll go ahead and lock him in there and see if we do another one where we can go from there. I usually do one around each quarterback just because I don't want that to be, I don't know why, just because I don't want it to be the deciding factor. It makes more sense during the game. Or it makes more sense during the regular season when we've got a bunch of games, but when we've only got two games and four teams, we really just need to be picking the best players at each position.
Totally agree. So leading us down to our running back on the slate, let's just go ahead and lock in Saquon.
Yeah, Barkley's in there. And now we get to debate the rest of them. So, James Cook, we
I
did see
like Cook.
Mixon have a decent game last week against the Chiefs defense. I didn't expect that. And the Texans were definitely in that game, and it surprised me, to be honest. So,
So
Cook
I
could
think
have a
this
decent
is
game.
the kind of like if this is the games that Vegas expects, then and we're not getting a crazy game from any of the teams, I think James Cook is a must as well. Just for his price point, we know he's a clear back. While the other teams, then we got a list of four running backs that split carries. So I like Cook. He's the only kind of RB1 left on the slate.
So, you don't feel like he's splitting with Ray Davis. We're seeing a
I
lot
don't
of
think
Ray
he is.
Davis.
Cook has been dependable for this team all year. He has had games here and there, but Cook's the one.
All right. Well, we could go Cook, particularly since we're not going Josh Allen. Although I kind of like building him with Josh Allen because then I'm guaranteed to get the touchdowns wherever they go. And that is one of the things when we start seeing these limited number of players. I don't mind pairing the running back with the running quarterback just to make
Yeah,
sure that if there are four rushing touchdowns, that I'm getting all of them.
very true.
But in this case, we're going to go Cook. I also like Eckler. Let's run through the others. You've got Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, who are also in a full share there. I like
I think
Eckler just from the pass catching perspective that he brings to the team, but Robinson is showing that he's pretty reliable and is going to get his carries too.
yeah, he had a great game against the Lions. He had a couple touchdowns, over 90 yards, and looked good when he had the opportunity. I think the decision for Brian Robinson and Eckler for it's more of just how you're building your lineups. If you think this is truly one of those times where 2 game sample size, you have to just run with the story. If you think that the Eagles come out and they take an early lead, then I'm all over Eckler, and he's going to be a crucial part for Washington to stay aggressive in the passing game. If Washington is able to take a lead, I think they will like to hammer away with Brian Robinson and kind of chip away at that clock.
That's true. We're going to go ahead and put Cook in there. I am a little worried, having built a few lineups, that we won't be able to afford him and we might be coming back here to look to save some money.
I
But
got
let's
some
move on
ideas
to
for how we can save.
Okay, let's move on to wide receivers. That's probably where we're saving because they're all wild cards. Like I said, the only ones I feel that are super dependable are Terry McLaurin, Shakir, Xavier Worthy, and that's kind of it.
I'm in agreement. I really like those three. I You do have like cheaper Bills options to go through, but I was kind of thinking that the way we might save on the slate is going back to the double tight end because I mean none of these wide receiver options are too scary. I really like those three, and I wonder if we can get away with putting those three in and locking them in.
I don't think we're going to be able to afford it, even with two tight ends if you want Kelsey. But well, let's put in Terry McLaurin, Shakir, and Xavier Worthy. It's kind of amazing that the wide receiver prices are so low. And yeah, I'm off of AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They just haven't looked good. I think they are going to have to perform in this game. So I know we're going back to what has happened and depending a lot on history and what we've seen in the last few weeks. We're trained by what has happened. And the only way that the Eagles win, well, I guess they can just go on Saquon Barkley.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah. I think that that's their game plan is if we line up with extra offensive linemen and just let Saquon run for 30 times, can you beat us? And don't turn it over.
yeah. All right. Well, we'll go with our three dependable wide receivers. Tight ends, Kelsey.
I think we need Kelsey. Yeah, we are going to get into some
We're
tricky
in.
situation. We're going to have to sacrifice one of them. So I think out of the options that we've submitted so far, I kind of like dropping Shakir and just saying that someone else gets a jump ball. And I like Cooper. I think he could show up. He's had some games with just depending on the matchup where he's had those double digit targets and had explosive games, but then it will just completely disappear. But if we're looking for higher potential, a way to get different than the rest of the field, then we can save a little bit of money with Shakir.
All right. So we're taking out Shakir. We're putting in Amari Cooper. And then our second tight end that we want for our flex
What's
spot.
going over for defense real quick, just to see
Let's
how
go
much
to the
money we're left.
defense.
Do you care about having any of these four defenses, or are they all kind of the same?
They're all kind of the same to me. I lean probably to the Bills.
I like the Bills. With 5,200 left, we might have to drop down to the Commanders just because,
Let's
I mean, I think the Eagles are going to be very limited. Hurts is hurt. So it's going to be a lower scoring game. It's just can they get a couple of those sacks? And then what do we have do we have any options that
We have
work
no
with?
options. No, 2,300, we can't do it. So 2,500, we can. So we'll go in, put in the commanders. There are 2,500 options, but that's going to get you a backup tight end. I think
Yeah,
we're going to have to go up here and get rid of Cook.
I think so. I do like Cook though. And I think he's a good way to get different. But I want I
We
was
could,
thinking that we pair Travis Kelsey with Ertz as kind of that secondary pass catcher for Daniels.
for Daniels. All right, that leaves us 5,100. Ooh,
Can we get Kareem Hunt, or is he priced out there?
no, he's priced out. Yeah, we've got 5,100. He's 5,400. Eckler is 5,300. It's
Hmm.
so I had built a lineup that was very similar to this one, and so I'm just gonna put in here
What
what I
about?
had used, or do you wanna? You have
I'm
another idea?
thinking, what if we swap out Ertz for Kincaid? Kincaid at least isn't very athletic tight end, and maybe he can break one. And then put in a Kareem Hunt.
I like Ertz with Daniels,
What was your
so I'm
thinking?
a little stuck on that. I don't mind the Amari Cooper. So what I had done is let's go back to the wide receivers, and I'm gonna put Shakir back in there. I had dropped down to Mac Hollins. And so Mac Hollins at 3,300, shot in the dark on the Bills. He may
Yeah.
do it. You could pick any of the guys kind of in this range. So you've got Coleman. I don't know that you could, I wouldn't be able to afford Coleman and get a real running back though. But if I put in Mac Hollins here, then I can actually get a running back. I can even get Brian Robinson Jr. So you can get Hunt, you can get Eckler, you have your pick of, except for Cook. That long
Um,
shot of Mac Hollins.
I like it. I think I would go Hunt with kind of that remaining option.
And then we can afford a different defense if you want.
Yeah, let's bump up.
So we can go to the Bills at least.
I think that's good. I think we're gonna wind up with a pretty similar lineup, but I did want to highlight a couple just key features from the slate. Is there's probably going to be very high roster percentage for the main studs for Saquon, for Terry McLaurin, Shakir, Kelsey. I imagine that everyone's going to be all over them. So if you do pivot off of them, you get a lot of leverage. I don't really know how you get bounces that way. I think some keynotes for these lineups is really just run with the stories. Like we've been saying, these smaller slates, these 2 game sample size, really anything can happen. People didn't think the Commanders were going to be here. I guess most people thought the Bills and Chiefs would be here. But how the game goes can be wildly different with just these small sample sizes. So tell a story, run with it. You're going to get a lot of leverage on any kind of weird things you do. So there's going to be some very high owned players. I think Saquon might be the highest owned we've ever seen. And then Travis Kelsey, Shakir, McLaurin are all going to be up there. If you pivot off of any of them, if you go drop down to a Noah Gray for a Travis Kelsey and just say that Noah Gray gets the touchdown, Kelsey might have the targets, but Gray gets the touchdown and he's the value, then you're going to get a lot of leverage on the field. And it'll be enough to get different. But have fun. Hopefully, we get some good football, and that'll wrap us up for until the Super Bowl.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, the rookies are coming.
Yeah, they are. It'll be fun. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will have a free contest and the link will be in the description. Good luck this weekend.